Welcome to Skater Stories, where we are asking members of our skate community to share their story of why they started roller skating to inspire others. I'm Mel, owner of Roller Girl Gang and passionate roller skater.
Okay.
That's what it says. It says recording in progress. Hi. So this morning I am joined by Alima, and she reminded me we met in Skate Love Barcelona last year in sunshine, and we're in very different climates now.
Wow.
I'm going to pass straight over to introduce yourself and tell us your skate story.
Okay, so my name's Alima. I live in Birmingham and I'm from Birmingham. And I recently moved back to Birmingham April last year after spending a couple of years in Scotland due to the pandemic. So for me, skating, all the confidence to skate actually started with me longboarding in 2018. Throughout life, I've always felt a little bit off kilter. And I know a lot of people do feel like they don't belong or they find it hard to navigate the world or find their place in the world. But I know it's still a feature of my life now, even with skating. The difference is that I found a community that embraces that. And so with longboarding, I felt like it was the first thing that I did where who you were as a person didn't really impact the language that you were speaking, which was boarding and being able to share that passion. I'm also a musician, and even though music itself is a language, there are some strings attached to who you are as a person. You can be a trendy artist, where the things that you say online really do impact the way people perceive your music. So longboarding was the first time I felt like that didn't matter. And then because during the pandemic, I was severely depressed, I was like, I need to find something else. So I'd bought my skates all the way to Scotland with me. I saw this girl in the skate park. There's skate parks everywhere in Scotland, it's top notch. So in terms of like social distancing, it was the greatest. So I actually started skate park skating to begin with. And we would go every day at the same time. I even got my first UK tan during summer 2020. That was cute. And people were like, where have you been? I'm just in Fife.
Outside.
Yeah, literally. So we would go every day, and being outside helps you build up a level of fearlessness. And eventually I moved up to like dropping in and stuff. But it wasn't until I moved to Edinburgh that I met like a large group of skaters. Everyone was so different levels, different outlooks on life. And it was just so accepting. And it was also weird. I was like, I'm more than 300 miles away from home. And I found a community of people that just want to hang out.
That's so
and
cool.
I don't feel weird
Yeah.
or awkward. I think I'm going to give like a little bit of context. So in primary school, I was bullied. My secondary school was in a different city to where I lived, and I was the only Black person in my year. And I found that really, really difficult, culturally, as well as socially, because whenever like my friends had sleepovers, I couldn't go. It was too far away from home. Uni was really, really difficult for me because I do believe that my brain is wired differently. And I did try and get some support before the pandemic, and that couldn't happen because of the pandemic. And so I just struggled a lot on many levels. I also went through some massive trauma about 6 years ago. And it was at a time when I thought things were like going to plan, or I was able to have a better concept of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. And this trauma just flipped my life upside down. So when you don't feel like you belong, and then everything comes crashing down, and then with the pandemic, I couldn't trade anymore. I lost my home. I lost all my savings. To find something that just feels easy. Obviously, skating isn't easy, but just being there felt easy after a very long time of stress. It was just, yeah, it really opened my eyes up. And so by the time I got back to Birmingham, I knew that if I hadn't found that community in Edinburgh, I don't think I would have been able to have the confidence to be in the Birmingham skate scene, which is also so inviting and super diverse, super diverse. There is, as long as you're not a trash person, like everyone's your friend. And another context point is when I was 16, I did buy myself some skates. It was the same skates that I learned in. And the reason why I bought them at the time was because I used to go skating at this really famous spot in Edgbaston called the Tower Ballroom. And it's shut down now, but the building was falling apart. So it is what it is. But even then, some of the people that used to go back then were people that bullied me. So I've also noticed that the skate community in itself has changed and grown in a more positive direction. Obviously, there's still like cliques in life, and you can see how there can be a hierarchy, but for the most part, the community in Birmingham is thriving, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it.
Birmingham was a lovely community.
Yeah, and I've also noticed that we are diverse, also because like other cities come to Birmingham to skate with us, which then makes me feel like we are just all skate brum. But it's nice that people will travel like 3 hours to skate here. It was like another thing I was gonna say. Oh yeah, so like longboarding, roller skating is a personal sport that you're allowed to grow at your own pace. Obviously, we can get into our heads and compare ourselves to others, but I like to call it a social personal sport. So you get to grow at your own pace, but in a social setting where you don't feel alone. You can ask for accountability if you want it, but if you don't want it, that's also fine. And having that level of flexibility is what allows it to still be exciting. I used to do athletics in school, and even though I loved athletics, whenever I had to compete for school, it was like, this is crazy, guys. This is absolutely wild. I don't think I can push myself to be any quicker this week. And yeah, it just made the whole thing stressful. But yeah, with skating, that's just not the case. I definitely feel like that was all over the place, but for the most part, that is my story. There were two things that I forgot. One of the biggest things was that in Scotland, I definitely was the most depressed I've ever been in my life. And I've had depression for most of my life, and I felt like I hit rock bottom. So one of the biggest things about skating is that it has pulled me up out of the gutter. It's one way to escape in a very constructive way. And even if I'm not learning anything, just to like go cruising, it's just a nice way to clear the mind, because you also have to concentrate on what you're doing or you might break your neck.
Yeah.
And the second thing I've almost forgotten, so we won't worry about that. But
Hey.
yeah, it was very constructive for me personally as well as socially, and allows me to work through my own issues without having to show up in a certain way. Yeah.
That's always like, it's heartbreaking and inspirational in like the same breath. but you've kind of grown into this just beautiful person on the inside and the outside, and it's no wonder you're such an open, accepting person, and you are like a building block in making the communities work and ensuring that they are and continue to be like diverse places and accepting places, because I cannot for 1 second imagine that you would tolerate anybody who didn't have those values. You just be a bit like, yeah, you can skate, but I accept that we've got a different point of view, but we're just not going to be like super close. So you can just, I'm going to go skate over here, and that's going to be fine. Because that's like, I'm not crying, I am crying, but yeah, just I think, yeah, you're going to make people weep. Like, they're just
sorry,
like, yeah, it definitely does.
Write that in somewhere, I don't know.
You know, I must just, it just flows. It flows as it flows. And I think what you said about feeling maybe that you are maybe neurodivergent in some way, or like your thinking kind of doesn't seem to fit mainstream thinking, and like it doesn't follow stereotypical guidelines, like I can really identify with that as well. And I know quite a few people who are in their 30s at the moment. I think some people maybe in their 40s who are going and getting kind of tested, or tested maybe is the wrong word.
Assessed.
Thank you. Assessed to see whether they're neurodivergent, and they're like, yeah, I think I am. And I was like, do I want to do that? I don't know if it's going to help or change anything. And I think as long as you're kind of self-aware and you have an understanding, which you definitely seem you do, about what works for you, or how you're interacting with other people, or when you may be like, I need a lot of alone time. So, and I'm like, when I need some time to be on my own, I can just kind of go and do that. And skating allows me to be alone, but with other people. And I think we were like laughing about this a few weeks ago at one of our like Friday social skates. Was like a few of us kind of skating around in the room. No one was talking to anyone else. Everyone was just skating. And it was like, yeah, here we are, Introverts Anonymous, right here, just showing up, having a great time, like together, like, so no one's alone, but at the same time everyone was just kind of floating around, just enjoying the space and understanding that everyone in that space affects everyone else in that space.
100%, yeah.
And it was just really awesome to kind of feel a connection with people, but without having to talk to them. I think it's a really kind of special thing. So if you had advice to give someone who was like starting out and going, is there anything that you would kind of say, this is like a really key bit of information, and if you take away nothing else, this bit's like, try to do this bit?
So at first I was going to say it's not my place to dictate why you're skating, but I would have said the most difficult thing I faced was the comparing myself to others. Even though I knew that it would be at my own pace, I would sometimes slip into that headspace. So for me, I would say consistency is key. That is the first, like the main thing. But part B is break everything down, start small, and drill the smallest things that you think are insignificant, even if you do it for the first 15 minutes of every session. If it's just like toe stuff or heel stuff, and like make it a part of your routine. Because then all of a sudden you'll be like, I can do that because I know how to be on my toes. Don't be like overwhelmed by the big moves. comparing yourself that I want to be able to do the downtown, but you can't do like a cross step. So like, yeah, breaking things down and being consistent with practicing those small moves. Yeah.
That is great advice. Don't need me to say it. Alima, thank you so much.
Thank you
That
for
was
having me.
such a powerful story, and I wish I could hear more from you, but we are out of time. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much.
You take
All
care.
right, my love. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's skate story. I hope you find it as inspiring and uplifting as I did. Can't wait for the next one.